7:02, we'll bring the Mashpee Board of Health to order. Tonight we're going to be starting with old minutes. The first item of business, however, is to review and approve the Board of Health public session minutes for December 14th, 2017. Was there any discussion or comments on the previous minutes? No? Okay.
I move to approve the minutes for December 14th, 2017 meeting.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second item, sanitary code violations and fines at 4 Tri-Town Circle.
The attorney for the property owner has requested a continuance due to a conflict, and at this point we're still looking at the soil to determine if there's wetlands near the property. So from what I understand, the plan is done if it's a conventional system, but if there are wetlands on or near the property right now, it may change it to a denitrification system. So it is pertinent to determine whether those soils are indicating wetland biology. So I think the continuance is in order.
What do you guys think of that?
I think that's fair.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess we just need a motion.
A motion, please, yeah.
Move to approve the continuance for the sanitary code violations at 4 Tri-Town Circle.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
New business, sign expense warrants. Do we have expense warrants today?
Yep. Let me see, make sure. Yeah, just the one.
Our next item is a request for 2018 food service permit for Falcon Cafe at Mashpee High School. Blake, if you could give us a little background on this one, please.
Okay. The director and the high school staff have worked diligently to prepare a food establishment at the high school. The application menu, Serve Safe certificate, allergy awareness certificate, and floor plan have been submitted for review and approval. The pre-operation inspection's been performed. So Ronnie's been over there a few times on doing preliminary and checking out the equipment as it's been installed. And it's ready to go.
And this is located in the high school?
It's located in the high school. They're going to use it for training the students on service and do Serve Safe, and it's all a good thing.
Is there anyone here to present on this today? No? Any further questions?
I just noticed that the Serve Safe expires in June. Is there any sort of contingency, or does a note get made on the permit stating, just a reminder, like how do you guys track that? Or do you just do it every single
Yeah,
day?
they get reminders.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So then that's like, I'll remember.
What will they do? What do you? you say that? I'm sorry. If it,
I think he said they get reminders.
okay.
I wish I had something like this when I was in school.
I know, this is pretty awesome.
We had something like it, but
Do you know
it's
if
called
they,
home ec. It was a long time ago. It was a long time ago.
will the students have access to this as an alternative to the regular school
I'm
food, do you know?
I'm sorry?
Will this be an alternative for the students to the regular cafeteria food for the students, do you know? or-
No, this is for doing, like small events for small groups.
Okay.
So it's not set up for, I believe there's only seating
I think 24
for,
is what I said.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, 24. So no, this is not an alternative for the students to go. This is more for like the women's group or the men's group to go and then
It's neat.
to be served
Oh.
by the students
As a training.
as a training program, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's pretty
And the culinary arts to prepare the food. So it's been set up as a commercial kitchen.
Oh.
And, let's see, the layout's really neat.
Yeah, that is pretty- Sounds like a good program to me. I don't think I have any.
Yeah, we should approve it.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the food establishment permit as presented for the Falcon Cafe at the Mashpee High School.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, 7, 8, yeah, I think we have some time here. Item number 3, request for a 2018 food service permit for the Chocolate Rose at 628 Main Street. Why don't you could give us a little background on that one?
Okay. The owner, Ms. Vanessa Benoit, is the owner-operator of a baking and catering business where she'd like to expand to a larger operating space. On November 30th, 2017, the board approved a variance for the facility to utilize a grease recovery device in lieu of an in-ground grease trap. The bakery and catering permit, application, menu, serve-safe certificate, and allergy awareness certificate have been submitted along with the fee. The final floor plans have been submitted and reviewed. This property is serviced by an on-site potable well. Per DEP guidance, the food establishment must utilize bottled water for preparing food. Also, no seating is allowed due to the fact that the seated patrons utilize the bathroom, and the well will be considered a public supply well, which it cannot because the protective radius is not on the subject property. So I think we discussed that a little bit at the previous meeting when we discussed the grease trap. The owner is here at the meeting.
Okay. Would you like to present on this at all, or anything you'd like to say? Yeah, just come up to the microphone and state your name for the record, please.
Hi, it's Vanessa Benoit. Do you have questions for me?
Has there been any changes at all since everything we discussed at the last meeting?
No, the only thing I would speak to actually is that grease interceptor.
Yeah.
And that whole wonderful fiasco was actually never even addressed with the state regulations. It was with the Snow and Jones rep.
Right.
So we're back to the 500 gallon.
Okay.
And that's all squared away now.
Yeah, I talked to the plumbing inspector. He didn't know where it came from either, so.
Yeah, so I'm happy to say that's all set, and once we're good to go tonight, that'll be ordered tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So, but yeah, otherwise, I don't think any changes. The seating, like we talked about, is a no, so otherwise, everything else is the same.
Yep.
So.
Great. Don't have any other comments, everything looks good.
No, all looks in order to me too.
I move to approve the food establishment permit for the Chocolate Rose with the following conditions. Number 1, that bottled water be utilized to prepare all foods. Number 2, that no seating for public patrons be provided until town water is provided to the property and establishment. And number 3, that a final inspection shall be performed by an agent of the Board of Health prior to issuance of the permit.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All set.
That's funny.
Good luck to you.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night.
Thank
See you
you.
later.
Thank you. Is 3 minutes enough time to fit in the next one, Glenn, or should we just wait?
Let's see, it might-
For 41 Nick Trail?
No, for the fit.
Oh, prior to that? Yes, absolutely.
We can do that one.
Yep. Yeah, this is just a change of ownership.
Okay, so item number 4, request for a 2018 food service permit and tanning license, change of ownership for the Fit Company at 502 Main Street. If you could give us the background on that one, please, Glenn.
Okay, the business of Fitness Company for Women has changed hands. The new owner has requested a food establishment permit and tanning permit to operate at the facility. The owner does not have her certified food manager training yet, but is in the process of obtaining it. So the board has some options as far as the food establishment. The board may allow up to 60 days for the owner to get the certified food manager certificate, or just allow retail sale of prepackaged foods until the owner obtains, or just you can hold off on issuing the food establishment permit until we do an inspection for the preparation. It's just smoothies at this point. So I think that's all they're wishing to do. So otherwise, the tanning permit is straightforward, that application of fee has been paid.
Is there anyone here to present on this today? No? Do we have any precedent on this particular issue?
No, we've done several things on this.
I don't see any reason why, or I don't have any issue, I should say, with approving a food permit with the condition that they obtain the food safety manager certification within a certain time period.
60 days.
I think 60 days is quite
It's
reasonable.
fair, there's classes pretty regularly, so.
Yeah.
And just have prepackaged food for now, and
Mhm.
smoothies,
Mhm.
and the tanning.
Well, instead of the smoothie.
So they're not serving smoothies right now, 'cause I didn't make such a-
Well, it depends on what's going into the smoothie, I guess. Exactly how much preparation, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I think the cream is the only thing that goes into it. Everything else is either vegetable or fruit-based, so
Right.
again, I don't think there's too much to it.
Yeah,
And
I think-
just to add to the inspection prior to issuance of the permit
Right.
for whatever approval you seek.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything further? Great, I move to approve the food establishment permit for the Fit Company for Women with the following conditions. Number 1, that they are required to obtain a certified food safety manager certification within 60 days of obtaining the permit. They will be allowed retail sale of prepackaged food until they do obtain that. I also move to approve the tanning permit as presented. I'm sorry, the secondary condition also that they're inspected by the health agent prior to issuance of the food permit.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, since it's 7:16, we'll take our 7:15 appointment, which is a Title V variance at 41 Nick Trail.
Okay, I heard from Scott McGann. He is on the road, so he was not able to attend. But I told him that it was relatively straightforward. The design plan for the repair of the existing cesspools on the property has several variances due to the small lot and confined area for the proposed leaching facility. Comments on the design were sent to the designer, and a revised plan was submitted. As property line variances are requested and construction of the SAS is right on the property line, the board typically requires the property lines to be staked in the field by a land surveyor prior to construction. And that was one of my comments to the designer, and that note was put right on the plan. So that was nice to see that they've got the mitigation right on the plan. So I told them that the board, the plan would need to go to the board to memorialize these variances, or, yeah. There is a liner that is proposed for the cellar wall variances from the leaching, which is standard for us.
Okay. And that, did the liner, I couldn't really exactly tell from the plan, does it go fully around the system, the leaching system? It looked like.
It looks like it,
Yeah, it's not, yeah, it actually,
unless that's overdig, but I just assumed that was the liner.
Oh, it looks like it goes to the,
The
yeah,
box is continuing.
yeah, it is definitely a continuous box. Not that that's a problem.
No.
It just,
it's a bottom area only system.
Right, so it wouldn't be vital anyway.
right, okay. I guess one question I would have regarding the retaining wall, did that end up being specified for this? And, I guess the result of that question would be, the requirement to have an engineer's design the retaining wall in those cases.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
I'm trying to
The
remember.
interlocking block or timbers is what's specified for the retaining. That's 9.3, what is, we're talking 5 inches, the top of grade is 5 inches out of ground.
So it's a minimal.
9 point, maybe 6 inches out of ground, so it's minimal that the, 9.3. Yeah, the top of the actual system is at elevation 9, which keeps it just about in the ground. So all that's out of the, that's being retained is fill.
Okay.
There will be a strip out, but just below the system. They can't go off of the property with a strip out. So, and he's got a note on there for the inspection of the strip out required by the health agent. So I'll get called to look at the soils and the membrane.
And do they seem pretty confident? I mean, I don't know if they have an installer picked yet, but that they can install the system within the confines of the property? You know, without expanding beyond.
Don't know
this.
if anybody is. No, nobody is. This is the Rabises who own the property, who used to own Warren Cesspool.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know who's gonna install it, but I know they know
They're very
just
familiar.
everybody in town.
Right. yeah.
So, I would dare say they'll pick a good installer.
Okay.
This is, the father's property.
And this is. Is this elevated due to groundwater, or? I'm just curious as to why that's at all.
Yeah. Well, groundwater separation, 6.3.
Adjusted groundwater, 3.3. Okay.
Well, I think, I know Scott was thinking of going for the 1-foot reduction variance.
Mhm.
But I also told him that, there was a possibility that D-night would be required as mitigation, so he kind of opted not to go with that and keep the system where it is, and provide the 5 feet to groundwater.
Okay.
And it is adjusted. That's a relatively high groundwater that he's using, so,
He's being very conservative.
yeah, it's very conservative.
Mhm.
There's just no room on the lot.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just- This is just. Okay. So they want to put out like 3 feet to the max. 25, that's probably it. Okay, yeah, that's about all the questions I would have.
So we're just approving it with the variance and the staking. We don't have to really get into everything else, because things will happen later. As far as, like he was saying D-night and,
That would have been an alternative.
oh, okay, but he's going this.
This route instead.
Right, right,
Yeah.
so they're required
So we
to,
just need to approve the variance. Okay.
Right.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
they're required to provide 5 feet of separation between groundwater and the bottom of the distribution system.
Okay.
So in order to get that separation distance, you could either raise the system up in this case, which is what he did, or potentially use a denitrification system to get the 1-foot variance. So
Okay.
his option was to this particular. And that's not much of a mound anyway, so
Right.
as far as I'm concerned, the requirement of an engineered retaining wall is kind of ridiculous. So.
Yeah, I think we can overlook it.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. For this motion, do you want us to spell each variance out specifically, or can we just approve it with the list of variances?
You can motion it according to the variances on the plan.
Okay. I move to accept the proposed septic design plan for 41 Nick Trail with the proposed variances listed on the plan, provided that a land surveyor is required to stake the property lines adjacent to the proposed septic system prior to construction.
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
This is just me, but I really like that he actually worked out the storage of the pump. Not many of them do.
That's kind of
The working level and the calculations, it's just great.
That he figured out the reserve above the, yeah, the
Yeah.
24-hour storage?
Yeah, 'cause not many of them do, and then you go back and it's wrong,
Right,
you know?
yep.
Okay. So, let's see, moving back to our new business then. Item 5, variance request for, to the cesspool regulation for 76 Summersea Road. Glenn, if you could start us out on that one, please.
Okay. The current owner, Donald Reynolds, has submitted a request for a variance to sell the property at 76 Summersea Road without upgrading the existing cesspools in lieu of the requirements of the cesspool regulation. The buyer, James Herbor, was contacted to attend the meeting to discuss the conditions of the enforceable agreement that will mitigate the variance. I've attached the memo to see the conditions of prior approval for other enforceable agreements, just so that we stay consistent as far as based upon the conditions of the future use of the property. And I believe there are some folks here for this hearing.
Okay, all right. So if anybody's here for this, if you'd like to speak on on behalf? Whoever would like to speak? Who's the
It's a
current?
party.
Are you you're the tenant? You're the buyer? Okay.
Yes.
If you could just introduce yourself, please, for the camera.
My name is James Herbour.
Okay, so you're looking to purchase, essentially, so you understand that you would be replacing the cesspool after
Correct.
purchase?
Yep.
Okay. And in the past, we've required what's called an enforceable agreement, which just essentially says that you're legally bound to do so.
Yep.
As required, so.
That's fine.
Is there anything specific to the dates that we've done in the past as far as length
We've
of
gone up
time?
to the 2 years, but we don't
Do we do 90 days? Do we do?
It really depends on what the use, the future use of the property is gonna be.
Will this be a year-round home?
Potentially, yes. Most likely.
Will
Okay.
it occupied right after the sale, or is there going to be a lapse in occupation?
Short lapse. I mean, maybe a month or two.
Okay.
Okay. And,
Plan is to do it right as soon as we can.
Mhm.
right. And it's not a tear down, rebuild or anything, you're just
Nope.
purchasing it to live in it? Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Just trying to recall.
If the property's not gonna be torn down, then typically it's 90 days from date of sale.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
pretty fair.
And that's to commence,
The process,
The
or
process,
to
right.
complete the process?
To complete the process, yes, for the whole repair to be completed and compliance issued.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. You guys have any more questions?
Just in the past, that's what they've done. To have the system fully
Okay.
completed, replaced within.
So typically, a timeline set for the agreement to be submitted, to be signed and submitted. And then the length of time, in this case, should be 90 days from date of transfer.
Mhm.
When is the closing?
March 9th, I believe.
March 9th.
March 9th.
Okay. So any of the dates from the board should be set from March 9th.
Okay.
So 7 days to submit the executed enforceable agreement,
7 days from now?
Yep.
So that,
and then to have the system engineered and completed by 90 days from that date.
As far as the lot itself, do you foresee any issues, like any variance required, any issues with the soils, any
You know,
complications that could?
there's nothing on file for this, so I really don't know.
Okay.
It's on the water, so
There's always.
I really don't know. It could be a D-night and UV based upon the distances to the vegetated wetland, so I'm really not sure how the setbacks are all gonna shake out on that.
Is there any sort of clause included in the enforceable agreement, say he commences the process, they discover some sort of unforeseen issue? Is there potential for a continuance? Do they have the ability to request it, or is it a pretty tight, this must be completed within the 90 days?
It's a tight 90 days.
Okay.
The only time that an extension was ever granted was when the bank delayed the closing. So
So
that's,
they couldn't.
it's
get that
that's
already.
why I think that if the closing date is used, then if that gets pushed back, then ownership of the property doesn't change.
Mhm.
And the buyer doesn't have the right to do anything to the property until he owns it.
Right.
So the timeframes can change with that.
Mhm. So that being said, I guess that falls on you to be aware that, it could possibly be an extended process, and then, to get started sooner rather than
Yep.
later, as opposed to waiting till 89 days in or something.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
definitely, yep.
yeah, that time of year, you'll have a hard time getting somebody to dig the hole
Mhm.
for it.
Yes, yeah,
So,
yep.
The Conservation Commission's pretty good just for a septic system. So,
That's good, okay. So so there shouldn't be like an administrative delay.
Yeah,
or
I
anything.
don't think that they're gonna hold anything up, because I think all they're gonna require is an RDA. They're not gonna look for a full notice of intent, which is a full filing.
All right, then, I don't see any issue.
Okay. I move to approve the variance at 76 Summersea Road, with the condition of having the buyer, James Hipper, enter into an enforceable agreement, with the terms enforceable agreement, within 7 days, did you say submitted? And then the system engineering completed within 90 days
I would just amend that to say from the date of transfer.
from the date of transfer.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All good? Thank you very much.
All good?
Thank
That's
Good
it.
night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That was good.
Okay. Moving on to item number 6, request for a temporary food permit for the Boys and Girls Club, the Awesome Chili Challenge, which I missed last year.
I know, it sounds
I
great.
am pretty excited to hear about this because I love chilies.
Glenn, if you could get us started on it.
Sure. The Chili Challenge includes participants who are not from licensed facilities, but homemade chili that are considered amateurs. The restaurants are considered professionals. I said that the amateurs cannot have the public taste the chili if it is meat-based, as a residential kitchen cannot serve potentially hazardous food to the public. Only the judges can taste the chili. So what they've done at the Chili Challenge is the professional contestants and the amateurs all produce their chili in a licensed facility, so the public can be the judge of their chili. The list of participants is provided by the organizer. The event is a fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club and the Falmouth Service Center, which are both nonprofits, so no fees are typically charged for the permits or inspections. And I've added a waiver in the conditions for the approval. Kate Sampson is here as the organizer of the event, if you have any questions.
Okay, great. Kate, do you have anything you would like to speak to tonight, or do you guys have any specific questions? If you could.
I don't have anything, if anyone has any questions.
I agree with what you said, because just because I see all of the outbreaks and,
Right.
yeah, in October, there were 150 people that got sick at a chili fest
Yeah.
in 8 states, so it's just really important to reinforce what he was saying about amateurs feeding the public, and just really for you to oversee it, and proper hand hygiene. Just because they have the gloves on doesn't mean they can touch the food and then touch everything else and touch the food and serve people. So take off your gloves, use the hand sanitizer, and wash your hands. Good, good. That's all. I would just reinforce what Glenn said.
I'm not just randomly saying, I can do it.
That's
I
excellent.
know how serious it can be.
That's excellent, yeah. I would just reinforce that, the meat's cooked, and then hand hygiene, important.
Well, temperature is what is very important.
Yes, and you're certified.
The Board of Health has also donated a box of Sterno to keep everything hot. And we did that last year, which worked out really well.
How long
Yeah.
is the event?
12 to 5.
It sounds great.
It's been great. Get your tickets in advance.
And then you have someone donating, is it ice cream from?
Eat Mac and Bolio's, and then SPF, which is where I'm a part of, is donating all the food.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just chili, there's gonna be all sorts of.
And who will be handing that food out to?
The owners.
Okay. Do you require any sort of mobile food application for them because they're off-site from the restaurant, or is that kind of included in the event?
No, it's all part of the
Okay.
event,
All right.
yeah. And they're gonna get inspected too, because Ronnie will still be there doing the inspections.
Okay.
So all that'll still be,
That's good.
have some oversight.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Where's the layout? Does each
She wrote a lot of, I liked that she wrote a lot about all the,
Did I miss a section?
all the information about, sanitizers bottled at station, sanitizers at each station, kitchen prep.
What about actual hand washing stations, though, not just sanitizer?
You're in a,
Well, we're in an open facility, so
Facility.
we use the
Sinks.
kitchen, the bathrooms, all that stuff, and then,
So,
and then-
right, it will be available to
Yeah.
you.
there's
Okay.
a sink nearby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions?
No, that's.
And your Serve Safe is up in May.
I know, I saw that. I looked at the date, I saw that.
I did see that. I wasn't gonna bring it up because it's just next week, but.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
I move to approve a temporary food permit for Cape Cod Awesome Chili Fest at the New Seabury Country Club with the following conditions. All food shall be prepared in a licensed food establishment. Kate Sampson shall be assigned the certified food manager on site overseeing things, and the temporary food permit fees shall be waived, and an inspection by a health agent shall occur prior to serving the food.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you. See you.
Obviously, you went to it.
Okay, so it looks like we have a couple of discussion items tonight. The
Mhm.
first being the innovative alternative sampling requirements. We've had it on for a couple of meetings. Do we have anything to discuss on that tonight, or are we?
I did send you some information on it. Really, all I need is, from the board, is if you see enough substance there and worthy of changing the innovative alternative regulation, then I'll advertise for 2 weeks, and then we'll have a public hearing. Septic regulations require 2 consecutive appearances in a newspaper, then we can have a hearing on it. The other types of regulations don't require that. So I wanted to get enough information together for the board to at least take a look at it to see if it's worthy of changing the regulation. Because it's really something that I'm requesting, not so much that there's an outcry from the public to do it. I just think technically, I think it's time to change the regulation.
Okay, so I am, just to make sure I'm reading this right, so we will no longer be requiring the quarterly sampling, it will just be the once a year
That,
annual testing.
that's what I'm looking to do, and
Yeah, I like
possibly
that.
increasing the maintenance visits rather than requiring the sampling. I just think it's better because of what's been proven. The more attention they get, the better they operate.
Mhm. Yeah, the testing.
Yeah, that
Doesn't
the sampling
necessarily
doesn't
mean that,
always,
yeah.
always help that. It may tell you whether it's operating or not, but we have enough of a track record to know if they're operating or not.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there's enough here to move to a public hearing on this. We don't need a,
So we just have, yeah.
just essentially
Yeah.
Right,
advertise.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's good.
I think so.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so that'll be, we'll do that.
Sounds good.
That'll be the first meeting in March.
Mhm.
First meeting in March. March 1st?
5th?
First.
Yeah, so the first is.
Oh, so we're doing February 1st and March 1st, huh? Okay.
Oh, yeah, we would be, yeah.
In Florida,
For the March one or the
March, Red Sox.
February? So then perhaps the
The
15th
15th.
would
Oh,
be
that'd be
better.
great,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Does that work? March 15th instead.
The 15th?
Yeah, we should definitely have a full
Laura's
board.
gonna be
for
out
Okay,
of town for the
sure.
first.
That's like the only time I've been away, just.
I was gonna say, we're gonna make you learn it anyways.
I know, that's good. I love it.
Okay, and our other discussion item is the draft rental property regulations.
There's somebody in the audience, do you wanna just,
Oh, sure, did you have a?
No, I was just curious to actually hear the draft rental
Okay.
property regulations.
oh, okay.
I also didn't know if you could share who the engineer was on the Nick Trail septic, just
Scott McGann.
Scott, he's the engineer, okay, cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, rental property. Okay. Due to the issues arisen from the abuse of properties by homeowners and renters using the online vacation rentals and guidance from the Department of Public Health, I prepared a draft rental regulation for the board's consideration. I used the Barnstable and Falmouth existing regulations as a guide, and I gleaned pertinent common facts to make the regulation. And I also did include the Provincetown regulation per Brian's request. And I did find some items on that which I definitely liked that should be included in it. It seemed like a very clean and well-worded regulation.
Yeah, I think for the most part, that aspect of it is quite well written down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I think this is definitely something that's worth pursuing now. So,
Mhm.
do you know if there are any towns besides Falmouth and Barnstable and Pecan? I think I've asked before.
if there are any what, I'm sorry?
Are there any other towns that are doing it besides those?
I believe Dennis has it. I did not go that far to pull that one up, but I think there are several other towns that have rental ordinances, or regulations.
Are they just generic rental ones, or do they mention the Airbnbs? Like, do they get involved in that specific?
They don't mention them because they were done, the Falmouth one was done originally in 75 and then amended in 94. Has not been updated since. Barnstable's was done in 2006, I believe it was. And they've done updates to that also. And I believe that was done as a Board of Health regulation, and then it was adopted into the town code when they changed when they changed their structure of their government, or changed their regulation structure. And and Provincetown was definitely done as a Board of Health regulation.
Yeah.
This, I had, in my comments to you, had recommended that we do I mean, we could certainly discuss it tonight and hash it out, but I think there's additional discussion that's gonna be needed to come up with a final product, or near final product,
Yeah.
because we do need to send it out to the real estate
For their opinions.
factions in town and to the property owners, just so we can get some feedback and have a public hearing on it, but which all has to be done prior to February 12th, so that we can issue a warrant article for town meeting, because this is gonna take creating another position and funding the position. But I think the fee structure that we can come up with will more than support the position. So I don't see it as being a big problem economically, because it will be paid by the user fees. You know, we have properties in town that are seeing $2,000 to $8,000 a week. I don't think a $200 or $300 fee, annual fee, is going to be too prohibitive.
Right, and it's pretty clear that DPH wants these properties to comply with the housing code.
Absolutely.
The length of the rental
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yep. The DPH definitely considers them to be lodging houses in
Right.
essence.
So as far as inspection goes, I sort of browsed those a little bit, and it seems to vary a bit from town to town as far as what the inspection is. Were you thinking a yearly, that's what the visit would be to do a yearly?
Yeah, an annual inspection.
Prior to issuing the permit.
Falmouth, I'm sorry, I think Provincetown was the one that submitted a 3-year certificate. So,
Right.
I don't know if we do that, we're not gonna have the funding to do a full-time position.
Right. Well,
So-
if
I feel like that's pretty lengthy anyway, because a lot changes from year to year, particularly with rentals.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know that I would go that, at least not without inspections. Maybe if you,
I think they
I
actually,
don't know.
it's $300 per year, and you have to do a 3-year.
Is that their fee, is that their fee?
Pretty sure that's what it is. There was a pretty big kerfluffle up there about
Yeah.
folks having to pay.
You know, $900 for a,
For 3 years.
right,
And the inspections, I think, there was some duplicative effort in inspections between the building department and the health department.
Okay.
On the rental property, so the health department stopped doing their inspections, and then so it's important I'm just saying it's important to do the inspections if you
Right.
charge that, because they stopped doing them, and that caused a
Right.
pretty big issue too up there. Is
right.
what are you charging me $300 a year for if you're not doing any inspections? So
Yeah.
I think
And
that's critical to this is.
Falmouth did not have anything in there regarding inspections. So their fee is a nominal fee.
It's
Was,
$25.
yeah, it is $25, but that did not include. So they're merely just looking to get the registration, but ultimately the registration allows them access and allows them to inspect because of the registration, just kind of like we do with the septic inspectors. Still allows us additional leverage for enforcement. But I still think that looking at the number of bedrooms and the number of occupancy on a pre-occupancy basis is absolutely critical,
Yeah, absolutely.
because we're dealing with so many issues of overcrowding. And one thing that I also did like about the Barnstable regulation was that they included parking. Even though their parking talked about using 25% of the front yard, I didn't really want to get into having to figure that out.
Yeah.
I just merely stated on the draft that the parking cannot obstruct the rights-of-ways, because that is another issue that we've had down in New Seabury on the cul-de-sacs, where there's no way emergency vehicles, or even the neighbors, could get to their driveways. So that's caused quite a hassle with the properties down in New Seabury just because of the lack of parking and the overcrowding. I talked to Mike Richardson, the Peninsula Council, on several properties down there, and this, I think it should be included as part of the regulation. And I think and I said it, that the police department is actually the one who makes the call. So we'll typically get the call and the complaint. We'll call the police down and then have them determine whether the emergency vehicles can get through or not. And if they say no, then we cite the occupants. And if it happens several times, then we may have issue with the owner to provide better parking, or again, limit the occupancy of the dwelling.
I would include something also about trash pickup or collection of trash, because I know an issue is if the rental is only occupied by people renting it,
Yeah,
that's rarely taken care of, that can get out of control. So someone needs to be in charge of making sure that trash pickup is regular, that trash barrels aren't just left, out at the curb week after week after week, that it's looked after in some way, whether it's by the
Yep.
renter in the rental agreement, by the landlord. homeowner, however you want to phrase it, but I think that it should at least be acknowledged.
Okay. I think Barnstable had something like that, but I think they took it out. I,
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I don't know why. I can talk to the health department
Maybe they just have a separate.
under inspections.
Yeah.
They repealed the previous storage and removal of rubbish, garbage, or the refuse. And so I'll see why they did that, because that's covered right within sanitary code.
I just think it often gets overlooked by people who rent out their properties, and then you get the neighbors
Yeah.
calling saying, you know, these people have left, there's gonna be a new group coming next week and there's trash, you know, just
Yeah.
sitting here, so.
It was interesting, too, that the Falmouth and the Barnstable regulations don't reference the sanitary code.
Yeah, what are
I just thought that,
they, violation?
because the inspections and the sanitary code, and the,
Well, no, the Falmouth one does reference that they should be aware of the requirements of the sanitary code, but they don't explicitly say, you must follow the sanitary code. It's kind of a roundabout way of saying it.
right, and
But, yeah.
I wrote that right in, that the inspections
Yeah.
would be performed in accordance with
Yeah,
the,
I think that's good.
with the sanitary code, because that way we can directly reference violations of the sanitary code. Keeping of the register, that really relates back to the motel regulation, or that's actually the state law on motels. So that goes back to the original motel law.
Do you think that is something that needs to be required under a modern rental?
Yeah, because it's based within
Yeah.
the law, I think it's good to have. I think there should be some way to document who was at the property. It's called a register, that's because that's basically how it's described in the regulation. But that goes back a ways as far as keeping of a paper register as you sign into a motel. That's kind of what it's based upon.
So the Barnstable one covers more than just a weekly rental then? I mean, in theory, this covers
Just any rental.
even a year-round rental.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's what we'd be looking to do as well, is cover all,
Any
anything that's
length
not a
of
motel, or are we just looking more at the seasonal type of
Mm-hmm.
situation?
Well, yeah, it covers everything. If it's advertised as a rental property,
Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable. And it can help head off some of the housing issues that we've had over the years with rental properties.
Right. Ideally, more of the issues will be seen prior to issuing the permit as opposed to in response to complaints.
Any idea the volume of rental properties we've had?
there's 400 Airbnbs.
Not to mention year-round rentals and.
Yeah, not to mention the other
seasonal
types, that's
rentals.
just the Airbnbs. And there's also a dozen different online
Yeah.
rental,
Right.
not just Airbnb, but there's VRBO and several others.
Mhm.
And there may be, some people may not have them listed with all of them, so I don't know how much duplication there is in those registrations.
Mhm.
So in order to get this on the town meeting for May town meeting, we've got to get this.
The regulation itself is based here with this board, but the approval for the position and the funding will be town meeting. Yeah, and a meeting with the town manager on February 5th, and that'll give me enough time to prepare something by the 12th for the deadline.
Now, is there a way to make it contingent on the addition of an additional staff person? Because to handle the volume of inspections, if that doesn't pass, would we then be stuck with a bylaw that can't be enforced with the existing staff? I mean, that would be my only concern.
Again, the regulation is up to you. You
Right.
can approve it, amend it, rescind it as you see fit.
Right, okay. So it's not like we're stuck if they don't,
Right.
okay. That would be my only concern,
Mhm.
adding to your workload.
Hmm?
To add to your workload,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why the other person is really necessary.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Because if we're doing anywhere between another 400 or maybe 800 housing inspections on top of what we're doing,
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, that's a lot of.
right, because
Yeah. yeah,
the regular, yeah, the
Yeah.
regular violations aren't gonna go away. You know, the
Right.
standard housing stuff you see now isn't going anywhere.
right.
Well, hopefully it will, but realistically, it probably won't.
So in order to get to that sort of deadline, so we'd have to approve something in theory February 1st to go on the warrant. And at a minimum, that piece we have to approve by February 1st, so.
Yeah.
And as you would recommend doing a working session between now and our next meeting in order to.
Yeah, sometime next week maybe if everyone's available
And then,
Mm-hmm.
and then do a public hearing on this.
on the 1st.
On the regulation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
That's a great
The
idea.
Airbnb website, and it was referenced in the letter from the Department of Public Health, that Airbnb says that if you sign up with them, that you have to comply with all local regulations,
Mhm.
local bylaws, regulation ordinances, et cetera. In the last 3 years, we've had maybe a dozen calls on people calling up to see if we have any local regulations.
Right,
A dozen out of 400 is less than 1%.
right, right.
So
Yeah.
people aren't caring to comply. So I think that's another reason why that the regulation is necessary. And there is a ton of money to be made with this.
Yeah, certainly, yeah, because it's probably expensive, so we do the
Mhm.
inspection work. Okay, so then as far as our schedule goes for, let's see, the 1st is actually in 2 weeks.
So that, yeah, that's our next meeting date, I believe, right?
Right, so we
Mhm.
need to get something
Check the
either
schedule here.
next week or, I mean, I suppose we could, well, we'd want to have something before
Yeah,
48 hours ahead of time for the
Yeah.
posting, so I would say next week is probably, and not bleed into the couple of days before our next meeting.
Tuesday and Thursday work well for me next week. I could do Wednesday or Friday if we need to. I would just need to make some arrangements, but
In a 7 o'clock meeting as usual?
yeah, it's fine for me.
What day is it, January?
Thank
All right,
you.
good night.
Thank you.
So Tuesday would be the 23rd and Thursday would be the 25th. I would have to rule out the 25th for myself.
I could do Tuesday easier. Wait, what's?
Alright, sounds good.
Running around like that. But yeah,
Tuesday at 7?
Yeah, 23rd at 7.
Tuesday, the 23rd at 7?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember.
Yep, I'll still post it as a regular meeting, but it'll be a working session where it'll be up to you to say that, won't take any public comment on it, but, so it'll allow us to get our work done.
Can the public come?
The
witness?
public can
Yeah.
come, it's an open meeting.
Yeah,
It's just that, if we try to take public comment on it, we won't get anything done.
right, yeah.
And you can tell the citizens that they are certainly happy and well to submit written requests or written questions or come to the public hearing. and also give their address or email, and we'll certainly, when we get a near final draft, we can send it to them.
Yeah, so the 23rd should be ahead of a time to, I mean, after that meeting.
It'll give me a time to revise it and get something final on paper,
Okay.
and then send that out to the realtors, and
Where do we meet for that? Did you tell us, right?
I don't have a room for that yet, and I'll have to let you know where we're gonna meet,
All right.
Excellent.
and where we're just gonna be discussing it and not have, hopefully have a lot of public comment. It'll still be open to the public, but we can do it in just about any room.
Okay.
Okay. So we have 2 items in our executive session. Do we have any updates on those? Do we need the executive session this evening?
We need the executive session for Blast Fitness, but I have no other updates on Lakeside Estates. So just be discussing the one.
Okay, so I'd be looking for a motion